got three bad ones coming on station that you can use. Got three Cobras coming in suspended. I want to hold on to that, sir. Okay, roger that.
Imagine crawling through enemy territory, inch by inch, for 4 days and 3 nights. No food, no sleep, surrounded by enemy patrols close enough to touch. And you do it alone, by choice. That's not a movie. That's a Tuesday for Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock. Before Chris Kyle. Before American Sniper was even a phrase. There was a quiet kid from Arkansas who taught himself to shoot in the woods, dreaming of one thing, becoming a United States Marine. Carlos Hathcock enlisted in 1959 at just 17 years old. By 1965, he had already won the Wimbledon Cup, the most prestigious long-range shooting championship in the country. He wasn't just good, he was in a class of his own. A year later, he was in Vietnam. And the jungle would never be the same. He was stationed at Hill 55 south of Da Nang with the 1st Marine Division Sniper Platoon. And from day one, he did something that sounds almost suicidal. He wore a white feather in his bush hat, a calling card, a dare, as if to say to the entire North Vietnamese army, "Come find me." They tried, they failed, every single time. His confirmed kill count reached 93, with an estimated 300 more. His longest shot, 2,500 yards. That's nearly 1.5 miles. But the numbers don't tell the real story. The missions do. In one of the most audacious solo missions of the entire Vietnam War, Hathcock volunteered to eliminate a high-ranking North Vietnamese Army general. Deep inside enemy territory. Nobody else was going. "I took the mission myself," he said, "figuring I was better than the rest of them because I was training them." For 4 days and 3 nights, he low-crawled through the jungle, a technique he called worming, moving inch by inch through enemy patrols, machine gun positions, and tripwires. No food, no water, no sleep. And this was the one time he removed the white feather from his cap. Even Hathcock knew this mission was different. He finally reached a tree line near the NVA encampment, 700 yards from his target. He waited. Then, the general stepped out onto his porch and yawned. One shot, through the heart. The general dropped before he even finished his morning stretch. The NVA searched for the shooter for 3 days. They found nothing, because Carlos Hathcock was already gone, worming his way back through the same jungle he'd come through, silent as a shadow. His commanding officer, Edward Land, said it best. Carlos became part of the environment. He had the patience, drive, and courage to do the job. But not every mission was about strategy. Some were personal. Near Hathcock's unit operated one of the most feared and sadistic figures of the entire war. A female Viet Cong platoon leader the Marines simply called Apache. She didn't just kill, she tortured. She captured American Marines and made their suffering last as long as possible, within earshot of their own brothers. In November 1966, she took a Marine private and tortured him for over a day and a half before releasing him. He made it to the wire. He died right there. Hathcock had seen enough. "I was in her backyard. She was in mine," he said. "It was personal, very personal." He hunted her, and one day, while switching rifles with his spotter, he spotted a group of 5 NVA fighters moving on a trail. One stepped off the trail. "I saw her squat to pee. That's how I knew it was her," he recalled. "They tried to get her to stop, but she didn't stop. I stopped her." He called it the best shot he ever made. Now, let's talk about something that sounds physically impossible. Hathcock was handed an M2.50 caliber machine gun, not a sniper rifle, and told to see if it could work as a long-range precision weapon. He designed a custom scope mount, had Navy Seabees build it, and set up on a mountain. For 3 days, he observed. On the 3rd day, he zeroed his weapon at 1,000 yards. Then an enemy soldier walked into his sights at 2,460 yards, nearly a mile and a half away, and bent over to brush his teeth. Hathcock squeezed the trigger. If he hadn't stood up, it would have gone over his head, but it didn't. That shot stood as the world record for the longest confirmed kill until 2002, set with a machine gun in 1967. By this point, Hathcock was so effective, so feared, that the North Vietnamese army put a $30,000 bounty on his head. Most American snipers had bounties of $1,000 or $2,000. $30,000. That tells you everything. So the NVA did what any desperate enemy would do. They sent their best sniper to kill him, a ghost of their own. The Marines called him the Cobra. The Cobra began hunting around Hill 55, killing Marines one by one, trying to draw Hathcock out into the open. It worked. Hathcock went after him. What followed was a deadly game of cat and mouse through the Vietnamese jungle. 2 of the best marksmen on the planet, each hunting the other. At one point, Hathcock tripped over a rotted tree and the Cobra nearly ended it right there. His shot missed Hathcock's partner by inches, piercing his canteen. "We felt warmness running over his leg," Hathcock recalled, "and we thought he'd been hit, but he'd just shot his canteen dead." Eventually, the 2 hunters switched positions, each taking the other's former spot. But the Cobra made one fatal mistake. He was facing the sun. A glint. Off the lens of the Cobra's scope, Hathcock fired at the glint. The bullet traveled straight through the enemy sniper's scope and into his eye. "I was just quicker on the trigger," Hathcock said quietly. "Otherwise, he would have killed me." Then, with that trademark dry grin, he added, "And it didn't do his eyesight no good either." In 1969, a landmine ended Carlos Hathcock's career as a sniper. The explosion knocked him unconscious. When he came to, surrounded by flames, he didn't run. He crawled back into that burning vehicle and pulled out 7 of his fellow Marines one by one before collapsing. He left Vietnam with burns over 40% of his body. He received the Silver Star for that act of heroism in 1996, nearly 30 years later, because that's how long it took the paperwork to catch up to his courage. Back home, even as multiple sclerosis slowly stole his body, he built the Marine Corps Sniper School at Quantico, teaching the next generation of warriors how to focus, how to survive, and how to protect the men beside them. The NVA hunted him for years. The jungle couldn't stop him. Enemy snipers couldn't stop him. A landmine couldn't stop him. In the end, it was a disease, and even that took decades. Carlos Hathcock never talked about himself as a hero. He talked about the Marines he was trying to bring home alive. Every shot, every crawl, every sleepless night in enemy territory, it was never about glory. It was about the guy next to him. "If I didn't get the enemy," he once said, "they were going to kill the kids over there." That is the American warrior spirit, not rage, not hatred, duty, sacrifice, brotherhood. Men like Carlos Hathcock are the reason freedom isn't free, and why the United States of America has never had to fight alone on its own soil, because men like him carry the fight to the enemy, so the rest of us never have to.
If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who deserves to know this man's name, and subscribe, because stories like this one, they deserve to be remembered.